of the Women Writing Intentionally show with Jenny Alberti and Tracey Brown. Join us as we talk all things writing and publishing, from insider secrets to our own author journeys. We are committed to providing a safe platform for women to share their stories, knowledge, and truth without fear of judgment, criticism, or betrayal. By coming together in the genuine spirit of collaboration, we provide opportunities for growth, healing, and transformation that benefit all women, authors and readers alike. Our vision is to help our authors intentionally build an aligned legacy and portfolio that supports their mission as a woman, human being, and business owner. In this week's episode, we are going to be talking about our upcoming collaborative book project, Betrayed, the stories of betrayal that so many of us have experienced, and why sharing your story might be the best Christmas present you give yourself this year. So we are not afraid to dive into exactly what our mission and our purpose is. Jenny and I are very much about, speaking the truth without judgment, criticism, or betrayal, which is one of the things we feel super passionate about with our new book project. So Jenny, do you want to share a little bit about what you're excited about when it comes to our new book, Betrayed?
What I'm excited about? I'm excited about the whole thing. I'm excited about the entire thing because I think that there's a lot of not real clarity around the topic, and a lot of people that are dealing with these things that are happening in their life, but they don't necessarily understand why or understand what it is. And I want to do our part in bringing those things to light, educating more people, helping more people, and also kind of bringing some clarity around this kind of stuff. So that's what I'm excited about. What are you excited about?
I'm really excited to see what kinds of stories women are actually willing to share about this, because it is such a sensitive topic and it's something that a lot of women feel resistance to talking about, because when it comes to betrayal, it literally taps into that survival instinct to hide away from things that hurt us or things that make us feel shame. And so this project is really going to be shining a light on those areas of where we have either been the one who has been judged by other women or been the one doing the judging. And the women who are going to feel called to this project and to share their stories are, I'm so excited to see who has that strength and that resilience and that courage to allow themselves to really step into that vulnerability and talk about how they've managed to transform it into an opportunity for growth and healing and transformation, and turned it into something really positive. So that's what I'm excited about.
We both have to share that. It can't just be me.
So for those of you who might not have clarity on this, so Jenny just touched on the fact that not everybody understands what the sister wound is, and for us, how we are defining it here, and this is not something that we're just making up. The sister wound may show up if you have ever been afraid of being judged or criticized, if you have ever felt isolated, alone, or excluded, if you have ever been guilty of judging, envious, like being envious or being jealous of others, if you have ever felt unsafe, mistrustful, or insecure around others, if you have ever felt that you have been in competition with other women and that it's you or them because the pie isn't big enough for everybody, the chances are you have experienced the sister wound firsthand. So the sister wound itself has its roots very deeply wound into the patriarchy, and particularly goes back to the burning times where women were literally forced to choose sides. So it was a survival mechanism to throw another woman under the bus in order to save ourselves. So we were either called to submit to the will of a society that was dividing and separating women from our collective knowledge and power, or we had to fight and die as martyrs for our beliefs. And those who submitted to society's desires or society's rules were often literally forced to betray their own sisters, mothers, friends, colleagues, etc., because it just wasn't safe. And if you didn't offer somebody else up, then the chances were that you were going to be the one who was punished instead. And what this does is it leaves generational collective trauma, and that fear of betrayal that does get passed down from generation to generation. So while it is something that has been intrinsically part of our history for such a long time, we continue to compound and perpetuate it, even in this current day and age, just in different ways.
Yeah, I kind of, one of the things that is also going to be interesting too, with the women that are sharing their stories, is to understand how it's manifested in current times, right? So you just talked about kind of where it's come from and how it's been passed down from generation to generation through our DNA, right? But also, like, what does it look like now? Like, what are the stories now? How does it look like now? How are people recognizing it in their current lives? And then also sharing these stories of how they've healed from it and how it has turned into, something beautiful.
Yeah. So, I mean, in this modern day and age, it can show up as feelings like being around other women isn't safe for us. It can be dangerous, that other women can't be trusted, that we can only rely on ourselves, or even worse, when it comes to the patriarchy, that we can only trust the men in power above us because we have this inherent mistrust of female leaders. And that might show up as, believing that the stereotypes about women bosses being bitchy or hard-assed, or that we're too empathetic and ineffective because we're too emotional, because we are, or other women are just like they're not, they're just not suited to the job. And I'm going to be really honest here. Here in Italy, we've just elected a female prime minister, and I have to say I'm not a fan. And I am guilty of judging her. I do not like her policies, but I also feel like she is a threat to women because her platform is built on, not supporting, or she wants to repeal abortion laws. And I feel like women having a choice about what they do and don't do with their body should just be a fundamental human right. And we already live in a country where, even though it is currently legal, because the Catholic Church is also very intrinsically linked into the society, it is actually still a barrier for many women, depending on which region of Italy they live in. They may not be able to still access services even though they're legal. So for me, I'm not going to lie, I am totally guilty of judging other women and women in power if I don't feel like their platforms necessarily align with me. So, and this isn't necessarily just something that happens in countries like Italy. There are women leaders, Australia and New Zealand and the UK, just off the top of my head, have all had female prime ministers or female heads of state. And I have no doubt that people from each of those countries have also had particular feelings about those women being in power versus when a man is in power. Doesn't mean that we like male leaders any better, and by all means, I'm sure we judge them too. I know that we judge them too. But when it comes to women supporting women, we are very much guilty of finding the things to criticize rather than support.
I have, like you mentioned, kind of the female leaders, right? I'm just going to share, things like everybody kind of wonders like, oh, am I right? Like, do I have a story, or I have too many stories, or, just whatever. I'm going to share like what comes to mind. I have a bunch of different things that come to mind to share about, this particular topic. One of the things is about female leaders, and a particular woman that was in my career when I was working in fitness. I worked at a gym for over 11 years. Same company, same job essentially. And this woman was like in charge of all the operations. And she was like partners with the owner, right? Like they were business partners, not his wife, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody was just like, she's a bitch. She's a bitch. You can't trust her. Everybody, the entire company, like 13 gyms, and everybody that had anything to do with any of these gyms, this is what they thought of her. Simply because of her position, that she could do anything. And she wasn't necessarily the actual owner, but she was a leader. And she was a bitch. Like, her name and the word bitch were like synonymous. It was like, she was a bitch because she only looked out for herself. She was only trying to make more money. She was only this, only that, right? Mm-hmm. All of the things that it wasn't actually true. She was a wonderful woman. Like, there was many times where just like hanging out, different kind of events or get-togethers or whatnot for the company. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, she's actually a really nice lady. I don't know why everybody calls her a bitch, just because she's doing her job, because she's in a position of power. So I have all of these different kind of stories and things that have happened with this particular woman where I had bought into that she was just a bitch and she was going to do whatever she could to continue to stay at the top. And like, how could we get her fired? Like, everybody was like, how do we get her fired? How can we get rid of her? Right. And I was like, this like festering thing that it was just part of the culture. Right. So that's an example of that wound showing up, manifesting in this actually, most of my stories manifested in this particular time of my life at this job. But that's an example, right? Female leader, we saw her as a bitch. She was only out to help herself and to stay at the top. And it actually wasn't true. She was like one of the nicest ladies when you actually got to know her. So that's one of my examples.
And I think we can all think of some time in our lives or in our careers or even in our businesses where we have judged or felt judged by other women, especially if you're in the entrepreneurial space as well. There is a lot of judgment of, other women business owners, or feeling judged by other women business owners.
And even feeling like that's what you should do, right? Like, mm-hmm. Everybody else doing that, I should also be judging this person, or I should also be looking at them like this, right? Especially, like you said, in this space that we're in.
And it doesn't really matter what industry you're in, whether you're in fitness, whether you are an author judging other female authors, whether you are a coach judging other coaches, whether you are, a VA judging other VAs or business managers, or, social marketing managers or influencers. I mean, my God, I can't even imagine what it would be like to be an influencer judging other influencers. For a start, it's literally probably how you make your money. But just, like, it doesn't matter what we do, even when you're in like a bricks and mortar business and you have products, right? You're looking at your other competitors, and literally part of business is finding what your competitive edge is and how you're better than other people, which is calling us to not just be constructively critical, but to be like, oh, well, their stuff is crap and mine is so much better. And it is so hardwired into the capitalist society that we're in, right? Because that's how we create our unique selling points. That it it really dives into, I don't know if this is a thing in the US, but tall poppy syndrome. I don't know if that's a very Australian phrase or not, but it's the idea that we need to cut others down to size so that they're no better than they should be, right? That we need to create our own sense of safety and importance to protect our because it's all about survival of the fittest. We need to be able to make it a safe place for us to shine and excel so that we are the ones who are the fittest and going to survive in the long term. And so what the sister wound does, and what the creation of that has done, is that it breaks those deep bonds of trust between women, because our personal survival was at stake if we didn't just, throw somebody else to the wolves instead of us, to distract and keep ourselves safe. So, going back to what you said before about how does it manifest for us in modern times, it can show up as feelings of shame. It can show up about, feeling like we are losing our power, or that our power is at risk. It can show up as mistrust. It can show up as jealousy. It can show up as envy. It can show up as feelings that women are unsafe, dangerous, can't be trusted, that that gathering together as women might not be safe either. It's feeling like that we are being pitted against each other, that the pie isn't big enough for all of us, that if one of us succeeds, it's at the expense of somebody else, rather than the collective belief that the rising tide lifts all boats, right? So it's that the problem is that the sister wound stops women from growing, healing, and gaining power together. And that's what we want to change with this book.
Yep. So another story that comes to mind when you're talking about this, again, going back to my time in that same job and trying to get to the top, right? Trying to get to the place where I was a operating partner and I got, cuts of profit. Is I have a competition strength just naturally. I am competitive, which can be good, but this particular point in time, it was sort of out of hand, and it was fueled by this environment that was very much like dog eat dog, right? And the pie wasn't big enough. It wasn't big enough for everybody because there was only so many positions available. There was only so much opportunity. And so my competition strength was like, that was it. That's all that mattered to me, was competing and basically wiping out every other female that could potentially get this position. Especially since it was a male dominated industry, especially since I was already at a disadvantage by being surrounded by men. But then there was some other women that were, doing pretty well too. And I essentially had to do whatever I could to make them a non-factor, right? So that is kind of my example of being on the opposite side, right? Of me actually doing and perpetuating this. So it's not necessarily all of these things were done to you, and you've experienced judgment, you've experienced, these things, but being in that position where you've had to do whatever you could to survive. And that's kind of, my opposite side. I've experienced it from both sides many times.
Yeah. And I think this is really important to share because it's not about being good, bad, judged for one way or the other. We all have this duality within us. We are all as guilty, if you like, of perpetuating this as we have been the victim or on the receiving end of it. So we are not here to judge you for your story. We're here to say, look, we are providing you with a safe space to share your story and use it as a way to light the way forward for other women who might not have any idea how they can turn this around and into something that can be healing for them, or that can bring them that transformation or that self-awareness, even, because so much of this comes back to self-awareness. The best way for us to heal ourselves and to heal the collective is simply by becoming aware and becoming curious enough to ask the questions, why, why do I feel this way? Why did I do these things? To re-examine our stories, to look for the root causes. Because when we are willing to do that work, when we're willing to dive deep and actually acknowledge the part that we have played, whether, no matter which side we're on, it does allow us to release and let go of pieces that actually are no longer useful to us, but also to shift our perspective on some of the other things and recognize that maybe the way that we responded was because we didn't feel safe, or because of, other circumstances that were going on at the time, and that perhaps we were making the best decisions we could with the information we had at the time, and cutting ourselves that slack too, not because we are trying to discount or not take responsibility for our actions, but also to demonstrate the compassion that we need to demonstrate ourselves as much as we need to demonstrate compassion to others.
Yeah. I think that the awareness is a major part. Like I kind of said in the beginning of the episode, the awareness of not only what these sister wounds are, and what has happened either to you or you've participated in, but the awareness to be able to understand what it is and help others, help yourself, right? Release it. And you may not be in the point where you've actually transformed it, right? Like you may not have the story of the actual beautiful thing that has happened yet, but this could be the pathway to that, right? And your hope for how it's going to transform. So bringing that awareness allows for these things to actually happen. And there's going to be women that are at all different stages, right? It's not just like, hey, I have this experience and here's everything that came because I transformed it. We'll have women that are in that position, but we'll also have women that are in a position where they have these stories and they're looking to examine them and unpack them, and then to start release them. And then what is their hope for, for actually contributing, right? Like everybody doesn't have to already be in that beautiful place already, right?
No, I think that's such a good point, because if we wait until we're ready, sometimes we never actually get started, right? And sometimes knowing that we have a story that we want to share, even if we don't know what the ending is, even if we don't know what the happily ever after is, doesn't mean that we shouldn't start writing the story already. Because if there's one thing I've learned, and I know, Jenny, you probably have experienced the same kind of thing, as we have taken on book projects and started writing chapters and started thinking about the stories that we want to share, over time, they, so much happens in book containers. Once we have said yes to our story, that our stories continue to evolve and change. And quite often, I don't know if this has ever happened to you specifically, but I have started writing chapters and they have gone in a completely different direction than the story that I thought I was going to tell when I sat down at my computer to start typing. And I think that's one of the magical things about sharing our stories, is that until those words, make their way out of our fingertips, whether it's, pen to paper, whether it's keyboard to laptop or whatever, the story that is meant to be told is still being written, right? So you don't have to know the ending when you start at the beginning. You just have to be willing to start. You have to be willing to open yourself up to the possibility of reframing and experiencing and and doing the work that will allow you to transform and evolve over time. And I think that's one of the beautiful opportunities in especially sharing stories about, like what we do here with transformational nonfiction, because we do get to delve into our own personal stories and we get to reframe them and we get to look at things in a completely different way than we did when we experienced them the first time, because we have the benefit of time as well as perspective. And so we get to look at it through a different lens.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that about the different stories that come out. A lot of my authors that were with me in Quiet and Badass said, "Oh my gosh, like that is not," like when they turned in their chapters, right? "Oh my gosh, that is not what I thought I was going to be writing about," right? A lot of them actually. And it's it's funny because you have to resonate, right? The title, the subtitle, the subject, it has to resonate. And then once it resonates, it's kind of like, yeah, I have a story about that. And something kind of comes to mind, or many things come to mind, like I said earlier. But you don't really have it all pieced together yet. And then you're like, okay, yeah, I think that I have a story, and you agree to contribute. And then you sit down and you start writing, and you kind of start writing about some of those things. And then when the flow really starts to kick in, a lot of times it's something completely different than what you thought, because you've kind of unpacked some of that stuff, and all the things that kind of rose to the top of your awareness came out. But then once those things that were already in your awareness came out, and you start getting deeper and deeper, it's these things that we've kind of pushed down. Like, we've either intentionally pushed them down, or we have just as a coping mechanism pushed them down. And these things kind of start to come out. And those are the stories that are really powerful, that really need to be told, because they're really going to help other people. So that's kind of, I think that's why so many of us actually have that happen when we start writing, because it's like underneath all the things that we think that we're going to talk about, right? All the things that maybe it's safe to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
We feel like, okay, this isn't going to piss anybody off, or whatever. Those things come out, and then we start to get to the things that maybe
The really juicy stuff.
yeah, exactly.
And that's exactly what we were talking about before, about getting to the root cause, because the surface level stuff, the stuff that we're already conscious of, it's like the easy answer, right? We're like, oh, that's easy, I can write about that. But it's then as we start to unpack and we dive deeper and we allow ourselves to start unlocking those other layers and allowing the deeply repressed or suppressed, or the pieces that we thought we'd even healed over the top of, but there's actually a deeper level of wounding there that comes up, is actually exactly what needs to be released, even if we don't realize it straight away. And I know one of my Lunar Wisdom authors actually reached out to me the other day, and she was saying, you know, I've got 3 or 4 stories that I could share about betrayal, but the story I'm feeling called to share is actually about a time when I was the one who was doing the betraying. Is that okay? Like, is that going to be a fit for the book? And of course, the answer is yes, of course it is, because, well, for a start, we're not here to judge, but also so many of us also have those stories as well, because we've all been on both sides of this fence. And it is so important to us that we are giving opportunities for people to share whichever story it is they're called to share about this topic. You know, whether you feel like you need to share a story about a time when you were the person who perhaps either, you know, consciously or knowingly betrayed another woman, or whether it was something, you know, sometimes the betrayal actually happens internally. You know, when we're thinking things or when we're judging and we're doing things, we don't actually necessarily even go out and say, oh, hey, Jenny, you know, like, whatever. We don't necessarily have to go and do it to somebody to still actually feel like we've done the things. You know, for example, when you're talking about like in the fitness industry, when you were feeling like you were competing against all of the women and you needed to like completely knock them out of the running, you certainly weren't going to go up to them, or I assume you didn't go up to them and you were like, oh my God, Tracey, you are so garbage at what you're doing. I'm so much better than you, right?
No, I didn't do that.
No. No, it's not always like a blatant in your face kind of thing. Sometimes it's the things that we are called to do, the things that we just do without actually physically going and making a big song and dance about it. But it's that opportunity again to share that story and how we've managed to transform it into something else, whether it's because we have already done that, or like you said, whether we're still on that journey and we want to transform it into something else. And you're like, I want to take this experience and I want to turn it into an opportunity that allows me to be inspired and allows me to inspire others. So,
well, I think that this is why this particular container in this series that we're creating is different. Because we aren't necessarily only bringing people in and accepting contributors that already have all the answers, but this is actually a transformative container in itself, right? Like like I touched on before, you know, maybe you are in the middle of this, right? And you don't necessarily, like you said too, you don't necessarily know how it's going to turn out. This particular series of books that we're doing, the Wounded Women series in general, this container is a safe place to unpack all of this and kind of share your experience, share your journey while you're writing, while you're in the container with us.
And this is one of the things that I know we talked about what we're excited about for Betrayed, but one of the things I'm super excited about for the whole Wounded Women series is that there is an opportunity for a very small select group of women who really want to step into a transformative container over the next 12 months and tackle all 3 of the wounds that we will be talking about in the other books as well. So it's not just Betrayed and the Sister Wound, but then when we do Broken and Burned, which are the other 2 titles in the series, dealing with the Mother Wound and the Witch Wound and the Healer Wound, that there are going to be women who step into this container, and the evolution and the healing journey is something that they will be stepping into as a part of this container, not because they already have the answers to all 3 of these books. And that's one of the things that I felt like when we first came up with this idea, we were just like, oh my God, this is going to be such an incredible journey to go on, not just for these women, but for ourselves. And you referenced this the other week when you said about how I had said to you that we were going to walk this journey ourselves. And I know I've said that to you many times over the last couple of months about how, we didn't actually realize when we came up with this idea for the Wounded Women series just how intensely we would each be walking this journey ourselves, working through these wounds individually and collectively, as we would be then facilitating this container for the women who will be coming in. But what I'd also said to you is about how I feel like the fact that we are currently already like in the middle of our own journeys, or like embarking on our own journeys, is so that when these incredible authors who are ready to step up come in, we are already like a step or two into the journey, and we can say, well, look, there are definitely going to be some times that are going to be really intense and really icky and really confronting. But there are also going to be these incredible feelings of relief as these pieces start to detox, and as we start to let go of all of the layers that we're ready to shed and we're ready to transform. And who on earth are we all going to be? Not just us, but I do wonder that all the time, like, who are we going to be in 12 months' time? But for the women who step into the full, and it's called the Heroine's Journey, for anyone who wants to check out the page to apply, it's called the Heroine's Journey. And if you want to go on this journey and step through each and every one of these wounds with us, we are really calling you to consider who on earth you might be in 12 months and be open to the journey of accepting that you are highly likely to not be the person you are today, but that this is going to be an opportunity for you to really lean in and step up to becoming the woman you were always meant to be.
Maple agrees.
Yeah, she does. For anybody listening, I don't have a small child. That's my cat. She's very loud.
So, do you want to talk about a little bit about what's included as a contributing author for Betray? Do you want to get a photo?
Yeah, so we do have our amazing new cover that has been designed by our cover designer, Camilla, who is absolutely phenomenal. So you can see it just here. We have got that lovely green with envy green. We have got so many different layers here. We've got, the snake and the venom. We've kind of got the, the twisting and turning of our intertwined journeys. We've got that whole, stabbing in the back dagger bit going there. And then we've got, the lace elements, with the hearts and the roses and just all, so many layers of meaning in there. As for what you get when you come and join us in the Betrayed container specifically, you have the opportunity to join at one of 3 different levels, depending on your, where you're at in your own personal author journey or your own business journey, and what your goals and outcomes are as you want to move through this container, because we recognize that not all authors and not all business women have the same goals and outcomes that they want to achieve when they step up and share their stories. So our first level package is called the Visionary, and that one is perfect for the author who would like to just increase their visibility by sharing their story. So you will get to work with us in an amazing container, obviously, with the other authors to learn how to write your compelling chapter. You'll also learn all about creating your book launch offer stack, which is something Jenny is super talented at, and has had some phenomenal results both with her Quiet and Badass authors and also with my Lunar Wisdom authors. You will receive some, obviously, promo images and other marketing assets. You'll receive a launch plan and marketing calendar to help you know what to post and when. You will have access to our Women Writing Intentionally author community, which will not only give you access to all of the other authors in the Betrayed container, but actually all of our other Gemini Moon Press and Introvert She Wrote authors, as well as the Women Writing Intentionally collective authors. We will have bi-weekly support calls for all of our authors to come together and get to know each other and learn a little bit about the writing process and things like self-editing and just all of the different things that you need to know along the way as you are crafting your bios and your chapters and different bits and pieces like that. We will be doing an audiobook edition as well, and wide book distribution as well. So it won't only be published on Amazon, it will be going out, and you will have the opportunity to work with or request it from your local bookstores and things like that, and promote it with your to your friends and family and clients and people that and they can go into their local bookstores and order the book as well, which is really exciting because you actually have the opportunity to see your book actually on the shelf in a bookstore rather than just ordering it online, which I think is super exciting. So that is our first level package, and each of the levels include all of those same things. But if you are a bit more of a catalyst and you want to leverage and maximize your chapter to increase your impact, income, and visibility, you will also receive access to one-to-one messenger support. You will have additional training on how to build your book funnel, and you will have some opportunities to work with our PR girl, Christina, who some of you might have seen on the podcast a few weeks ago, on crafting your media one sheet for podcast and speaking opportunities as well, because we are super passionate about giving you guys the opportunity to get out there and speak and share your message and things like that. And then our top level package is our goddess package, who is for the author who really is so ready to step up into her power and divinity as an industry and thought leader. And I should mention that at both the Catalyst and Goddess levels, you have the opportunity to have your name featured on the front cover as a featured author. So you can just see on the cover here where it says featuring Jenny and Tracey and author name, author name, author name. That could be your name right there if you are either a Catalyst or a Goddess. In the Goddess level, you also receive a higher word count. So you nearly get to double the amount of space you have to share your story. So it gives you the opportunity to either dive really deep into your story or perhaps to demonstrate the duality of a time when you maybe were the betrayer as well as being betrayed. So it gives you so much flexibility to really dive deep into the story that you have to share, or stories that you have to share. So that's really exciting. But you also, at the Goddess level, will receive an exclusive personalized paperback version featuring your chapter as chapter 1 in the book, with a customized cover with just your name on the front, loaded into your own Amazon account, so that you will be able to sell that and make royalties on that separately just for you. So that's an additional bonus that we are offering at the Goddess level. So you can really like take control of how you are selling your story. If you want to use it for, your own programs, retreats, events, etc., you can maximize your own income that way, as well as earning royalties at every level. So every single author who comes on board for Betrayed will be eligible to earn royalties on the sale of this book as well. In addition to that, at the goddess level, you will have DIY PR media kits put together, and you'll have opportunities to have some bonus calls with our PR girl Christina as well, to really, get your visibility and your PR plan in place so that you can leverage the book and your version of the book out there as well, and really establish yourself as an authority in your area. If you do want to join us on the heroine's journey, though, and this is for the women who are really ready to completely transform your lives and your businesses over the next 12 months, you will receive a chapter in all 3 of our Wounded Women series books at the goddess level. So you will have those extra long chapters, and you will also have those individual bonus copies into your own Amazon KDP accounts, that you will make your own money off this book. So that's something that you get at the heroine's journey level as well. Plus, you will get a exclusive 12-month author circle to fully support you through your entire journey of writing, launching, and monetizing your book. So there will be extra special trainings, extra special support on top of what is included for all authors, because we recognize that if you are stepping into all 3 books, you will need that extra space as you evolve and transform like the beautiful butterfly that you're meant to be. We will also be offering collaborative co-working sessions so that you have time and can carve time to write your chapters, but also while you are putting together your offer stacks, or while you're building your book funnels or things like that, actually coming and being able to be in a space that we will be facilitating for you to put those together and actually be able to ask your questions and have the support that you need, or even just, if you want to write your social content or whatever about the book. We will also have, rather than just DIY PR and media kits, we will have done for you funnels and media kits, where Christina will actually be helping you she'll be doing quite a bit of that for you, so that you don't have to create your media one sheet. She'll put all of that together for you, and even pitch you to some media as well to get you some features, because she's freaking amazing.
Yes.
And the final bonus for the Heroine's Journey ladies will also be a free ticket to our virtual Women Writing Intentionally weekend, which will be 2 powerful days of learning and integrating. And that will be held sort of probably close to this time next year, probably like autumn next year. We'll be holding a virtual retreat where we will be covering everything that you need to really help you to leverage and harness this opportunity and get it off the ground. So, yeah.
We're going to drop the link, right? All the information.
We are.
And on that page as well, the link that you're putting up there, there's an application. So for anybody that this resonates with, about the application, there's a bunch of buttons on that page that you can follow the link to. But if it resonates, click on that button and fill out an application for us.
Yeah, we are, look, if you've got any questions, do feel free. You can either slide into Jenny's DMs, you can slide into my DMs if you've got any questions. But if you are feeling like this book or this story resonates for you, if this series resonates for you, do just, like submit an application, click through, even if it's not actually Betrayed that appeals to you, if it's one of the other titles, dive in quickly, because we do have early bird pricing available at the moment, but it's only available for limited numbers. So I think for each of the 3 books, at each of the 3 different levels, there are only 3 spots available, because we're very much about the power of 3. And so if you're one of the first 3 people to come on board for each book, and I do believe that we've currently only got 2 spaces available left at the goddess level for Betrayed. So if you are keen to come in at the goddess level, you really need to get on that quickly, because we have already sold one of those, and I think we're offering 6 at the heroine's journey level, and we've currently only got, I think, 5 of those spaces left as well. So if you would like to find out more about those, just let us know, or submit an application and we can talk about it as part of your application process.
Yeah. Also, if you have any questions too about like if the story that comes to mind is something that fits what we're looking for, same thing, just send us a message, right? Like we'll totally talk to you about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like we said before, this, like particularly for Betrayed, this is about reclaiming our stories, whether we are the betrayed or the betrayer, so that we can heal ourselves and collectively heal the sister wound. But the awakening feminine energy that is happening in our society collectively is where we are all feeling this intuitive call and this intuitive pull. We want to be in these communities. We want to be in these spaces where there is a collective focus. And we really want to be able to see the ripple effects of the actions that we're taking, and the support and the love and the help that we're providing others with. It's this, it is a complete shift in the business paradigms. And because so many of us are feeling that, it's really important, particularly, for us, for Jenny and I, from our perspective, to be able to create these safe spaces and these containers for you guys to come in and share your stories safely in a container where you are held and supported. And I really just want to say that if you are feeling triggered or resistant, like if you have listened to this episode and you're like, oh my God, no, I never do that. Like, I have never in my life judged another woman, or, like, I am so unjudgmental, I don't judge others. And you haven't quite maybe acknowledged that that might be a little bit of a red flag, because by not judging others, you're telling others that you're judging them for judging others. It's totally a thing. I've it happens. But where I'm going with this is that it's an excellent indicator that perhaps you do have a sister wound story. If you are feeling resistance, if you are feeling triggered, there most likely is a story that you perhaps have not been ready to face yet, but that perhaps is calling you to do a little bit of digging, to get a little bit curious, to be willing to explore it and to release it, because our instinct is to deny and suppress, right? The patriarchal society does have us tamping that down and not facing it, because the more separate that we are, the more easily we perpetuate this cycle. So if we are pretending that we're not guilty of perpetuating or participating in it, the chances are that probably we need to do a little bit of forgiveness work for ourselves. Remember, I mentioned earlier about demonstrating compassion for ourselves and cutting ourselves a little bit of slack as well as others. So I feel like there's a lot of opportunities here for us to do our own forgiveness work, both for ourselves and for the other people who may have hurt us along the way, whether they intended to or not, because sometimes, we are so self-focused that we don't realize that we're hurting others because we're deep in our own pain and our own journey. And it's not about forgiveness on a physical level, it's very much about the energetic level so that we can all heal and move forward. So we're not actually asking you to go out and tell somebody that they did something really mean to you or anything like that. What we are asking you to do is to do the inner work rather than make it an external journey. Although by all means, do feel free if you want to go and actually rebuild some bridges, that's totally fine too, right?
Yeah, we won't stop you from that.
We'll totally support you in whatever action you feel like you need to take. So, my loves, thank you once again for being here with Jenny and I. Jenny, do you have anything that you wanted to share as we sum up and move forward ourselves?
No, I think that we did a great job today, Tracey. Good job.
Thanks, Dave. Good job. So if you are feeling a call to come and join us either in the Betrayed specific container or in the Heroine's Journey Wounded Women series container, we would love you to go to www.womenwritingintentionally.com and submit an application. Let us know which titles you feel drawn to. There is more information on our webpage. Or if you have any questions, feel free to find us on Facebook. Come and join us in our Women Writing Intentionally Collective Facebook group. If you want to, that's probably the best place if you're not already part of our social sphere. It is an excellent opportunity for you to come and join us and find us and reach out to us and ask us any questions that you might have about the series. And yeah, so feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. If you are feeling like it's a full body hell yes, just go straight to the page, fill in an application. We'll get in touch with you as soon as possible and let you know what the next steps are. All 3 titles will be releasing in 2023, so you do have time to actually unpack and explore and really absorb all of the goodness of being in such an amazing transformational container. So if you would like to join us, please do go and check out the page. And before we wrap up, I'd just like to say, not related to Betrayed, but that Quiet and Badass is going on sale in paperback form tomorrow.
Yes.
And which, if you're in Australia, is already today now. It's already available. So you can go and pick up a copy of the ebook still for 99 cents. But if you follow that link, you will then be able to see that the paperback copy is now available and you can pick up a copy. So if you already have an ebook and you really loved it, do go onto Amazon, pick up a copy of Quiet and Badass, because Jenny and her authors did an absolutely amazing job of sharing their stories about being introverted and highly sensitive women in business and how they are absolutely smashing goals, doing it their own way without conforming to a society that expects extroverted, gregarious personalities to succeed and win. So if you'd like to learn more about Quiet and Badass, please do go and check that out on Amazon and grab a copy to support Jenny and her authors, because they're just amazing. And the book looks amazing. And I cannot wait to receive mine in the mail tomorrow. It's being delivered tomorrow.
Thank you, Tracey.
So we will be back again, same time, same place, next Monday. We'll be around at 2 p.m. Pacific and 11 p.m. Central Europe, talking about writing and authoring and books and all of the good stuff. You know where to find us. And yeah, we can't wait to be back. Also, a quick shout out to Carolyn, who had her solo book launch party for
Yay.
a place called Shame on Saturday, just gone. And I was super thrilled to actually be able to fly to the UK and go to Carolyn's event and spend some time with her. And all of her support and see all of her book support systems. So that was absolutely amazing as well. So congratulations, Carolyn, on releasing your book. So excited for you as well. So yeah, we're all about the books here. That's exactly what we're all about, right? Women writing intentionally, and we absolutely love, love, love sharing all of the love about all of your books. So, join us on the podcast, leave us some comments. We're happy to share them online. Tell us about your books, share it in our group, join our Facebook group, and yes, we'll be back again next week to do it all over again.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.